Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast, the worst thing about New Year's resolutions and how to beat it. Hey there, business friends. I have a big announcement. In February 2024, I'm launching a new program. It's designed to give founders, CEOs, solopreneurs, and business developers the skills and the language you need to get more international clients. Stand out from your competitors, captivate clients across borders, and pave the way to become the reference in your industry. To be the first to know when this program launches, join my special email list at christinarubuffet.com/clients. Now, let's get into this week's English Conversation Club podcast. Hey, everybody. Today is a great topic for anyone who has struggled to keep their New Year's resolutions. You know, we're already about 3 weeks into 2024. So maybe you set some resolutions and now it's, I don't know if you're keeping them or not. But I'm here with Sheila and we're going to talk about the worst thing about New Year's resolutions and what to do about it. Sheila, how are you doing with your New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I do not make New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
But I totally understand the appeal because it's a reset button.
Yeah.
A lot of us have those negative tendencies, those ingrained habits, and we just want to make a firm resolution or a decision that we're going to stop and make a change.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like the New Year's period is kind of, I mean, technically you could make a new month resolution or a new week resolution.
Exactly.
But the year seems to be this kind of time, like you said, it's a good reason to hit reset and to sort of try to change those bad habits or make some positive changes in your life. And I feel like this is just a very common struggle for everyone, is actually being really motivated at the start of something, whether it's the start of the new year or the start of your English program. It's kind of the same thing. Being really motivated and really excited about the change that's coming up. But then you get, a little bit into the new year, into your English program, into your guitar lessons or whatever you're learning. And then it gets really hard. And this is because we have this, this kind of natural aversion to change, meaning it's really hard to make changes in your life. And I feel like, our brains, we like the things that are familiar and that we know and that we're used to doing, even if we know that that behavior is hurting us, in fact, which is very contradictory. We know it's bad for us, but we've been doing it for so long. And so we kind of prefer to continue doing it just because it's easier, and making change is really hard.
Exactly. And I think too, with the article it mentioned, with these, yearly resolutions, you kind of set yourself up for failure. You have these misguided notions that the change is going to come quickly.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't, maybe you start off really well for the first few weeks, and then you start to slide back into those old habits.
Yeah.
And then you feel discouraged because you have failed, in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
But you're really not giving yourself enough time because making a change, it takes time.
It takes a long time. And I think also, there's, speaking of like misguided notions, sometimes we see this thing on the internet. It takes 21 days to create a new habit, or 66 days to create. And like, that's just not true. It's not because you do something every day for a specific number of days. It's like on day 21, it's difficult to have that habit. And then on day 22, wow, it just magically becomes easy for you and it becomes a habit. But, and I feel like, if you're trying to, I'd say if you want to make a change in your life, and you're thinking about that's probably a telltale sign that there's some room for improvement, or that you should change a bad behavior or adopt, a good behavior. But I feel like that if you're just focusing on building the habit, and we focus a lot, in our programs, we focus a lot on helping people build their habits. But I feel like also you have to maybe look at the habit, but also try to really tackle the real issues. Like there may be something
Mm,
deeper that goes beyond time management or energy management,
exactly.
or put it in your schedule and make time for it. And there's maybe like a deeper real issue that you have to look at to say, well, why do I want to make this change? And why is it so hard for me to make this change? And address that issue first.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to identify your goal, like know
Mm,
exactly what it is you need to work on and what runs against that goal, because we have
mm,
these innate
yeah.
tendencies that kind of run against, the goals and what we're trying to accomplish. So definitely, yeah, identifying, tackling that real issue
Mm.
is going to help a person to make some change for
Yeah.
sure.
And I would say like if we just take maybe like a concrete example that I feel like we hear a lot. People they might say, "Oh, I want to improve my English, but I don't have any time." So
Mm,
then I feel like we could spend all the time in the world with them looking at their calendar and putting, English time into their calendar,
right.
and setting a reminder for themselves and habit stacking and all this stuff, which are all, good techniques to have. But
Hmm.
if the real issue is that and I don't want this to sound judgmental, but I know it's going to sound judgmental, but it's not.
Just say
That
it,
they're
just
not
say
managing their
it.
time well. But it could be
Mm,
because their manager is interrupting them 50 times a day, or they can't shut off their emails, and so they're jumping from task to task, which means that it takes them 3 hours to do something that should take an hour, which means
mm,
that they just don't have the time for English. And so the real issue is not finding time to do English. It's how do I manage the way that I work, or how do I talk to my team about, I need this time for myself to focus, and really getting that in place. And then the time to do English is maybe going to like almost magically appear. Um,
increase. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Because they're and now instead of taking 8 hours to finish their daily work, maybe they take 6 hours.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It maybe the assumption is
Mm,
we just don't have time. I don't have
right,
time at all. But then if they reorganize, they look at their schedule, then they may actually see that they do have the time. They just need to
right.
utilize it better. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that's maybe if there's anyone kind of they've set their New Year's resolution, now they're struggling to actually make those changes to, yeah, maybe take a step back.
Hmm.
February is a new month. Hey, let's do new month resolutions.
Exactly. Yep. Reset button
It's
again.
coming up pretty soon. And maybe look at some of those deeper issues that are stopping them from making the change of their New Year's resolutions, and that might be a good place to restart. There we go. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and definitely I like at the end of the article, the author, she said, to not be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Just recognize sometimes you just have to reorganize to try to continue with the same goal. So a failure doesn't
Exactly.
mean that you failed and you can't,
It's
move
like
on
you
with your
fail or
goal.
yeah, exactly. And I would say that on that note, I'm very into time management and productivity and scheduling, and how do you organize your time and spend your time. I feel like I've now gotten to the way of organizing my time that allows me to do the deep work that I need to. But I think it took me about 5 years of experimenting
See?
with time management techniques to
Exactly.
get to this place. Um, and so, yeah, it can take a lot more than like a month or
Exactly.
21 days or 66
Exactly. Or
days or
even a year,
5 years, 5 freaking years,
Well, that's good.
Uh,
That's a success story. That's what we want to hear.
exactly. That it takes time, but if
Awesome.
you keep at it, you will succeed.
You
Just
will
don't
succeed.
expect to do it in a month or 22 days or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Try again next year. Who knows?
There you
Right.
go. Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely feel motivated by this conversation
Hey,
today.
good. Hey, I mean, I hope everyone else feels motivated. And I think that's a good place to say thank you, Sheila. And good luck with your month of February that's coming up soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. Bye. Thanks for listening to the English Conversation Club podcast. And if you're a founder, CEO, solopreneur, or business developer, and you want to have more international clients in 2024, join my special email list to be the first to know about my new program coming in February. It's designed to help you become the reference in your industry and captivate clients across borders, so you don't want to miss this. To know more, go to christinarubafe.com/clients. And we'll see you next week for another exciting episode of the English Conversation Club podcast.